Brynne, there is no easy button when it comes to sales. I mean, we all know that, but even with what we do and what we're talking about here, there is no easy button, right?
There isn't an easy button, but there is definitely a broken button. And the broken button is, when we connect and pitch.
Welcome to the Making Sales Social podcast, featuring the top voices in sales, marketing, and business. Join Brynne Tillman, Stan Robinson Jr., and me, Bob Woods, as we each bring you the best tips and strategies our guests are teaching their clients so you can leverage them for your own virtual and social selling. Enjoy the show. Welcome, sales and marketing pros, to Making Sales Social Live, coming to you from the Social Sales Link virtual studios. I'm Bob Woods. Stan Robinson is off today, but Brynne Tillman is here. How you doing, Brynne?
I'm great, Bob. How are you?
I am doing really, really well because we get to talk about something that we talk about a lot, but now we get to actually really address it specifically. So I think it's a good thing. So for many of us in sales, it's natural to want to rush through the sales process to get to the close. We pitch too soon. We're doing the ABC, always be closing thing, and so on. For us, though, rushing through things is actually bad. That's why we often use the phrase, slow down your outreach to speed up your outcome in sales. Sounds counterintuitive, right? But it's about building relationships, being of value, and providing resources, knowing that the sales will come when the time is right. So, Brynne, there is no easy button when it comes to sales. I mean, we all know that, but even with what we do and what we're talking about here, there is no easy button, right?
There isn't an easy button, but there is definitely a broken button. And the broken button is, when we connect and pitch, because we are like so excited that someone accepted our connection request that we've got to get it in as fast as possible. And it's really broken. It's really a challenge. All of us have been victims of connect and pitch.
Yes.
All of us have been victims of connect and spam, even if it's not a pitch, that they've scraped your email and you can see, Judy Hayes has a period in her name. So she knows that if someone is sending an automated message, it's JUDI period. She knows it's been scraped because nobody's going to type that. So there are this is all the effect of people wanting to speed it up.
Yep.
And speeding it up is such a problem. We want you to start thinking about treating the people on the other side of the message the same way you would if you were on the other side of the table. And you would not say, hey, Bob, I'm Brynne Tillman. Nice to meet you. We help clients just like you do X, Y, and Z. You'd be like, what are you talking about? So if I wouldn't do it in real life, why would I do it here? So Bob and I put together a quick list of a few areas that need to slow it down. So I'm going to toss it back to you to start that list.
Yeah. So before we get to that list, just the one little yes and thing that I want to append on to what Brynne said at the very end. It's not only about treating the other people at like they're at the other end of the table. It's also about just treating people how you would want to be treated. Do you want to see this stuff? Do you like being, pitch slapped? If not, then don't do it yourself. I think it's that simple. And, adding on to what everything Brynne said as well, because that's obviously very important too. But if you don't like it happening to you, don't do it to other people. I mean, it's just that simple, I think. And if you do like it happening to you, give us a call. So,
I got something to tell you.
Yeah. Yeah, we got something to sell you. Let's talk about sales and selling the wrong way. Okay. First of all, slowing down your reach to speed up your outcome.
Slowing down your outreach. To speed up your outcome.
Oh, did I not say that? I sometimes we breeze through that phrase so fast that
slow it down.
Slow it down. Slow down. Okay. I won't torture you with that. Number one, research your prospect. So I have been through sales trainings and things like that where they'll either say, use our script. And this is with cold calling, obviously. Use our script. You don't need to research at all. Just find out what the heck's going on while you are pushing for the sale or while you are pushing for a meeting. Or they'll say, you know, look look them up for like 2 minutes, fill in these blanks in this sheet, and then call people. Or at that point, you're even talking about potentially LinkedIn and things like that. Now that's better, but we're talking about taking more time than that to really research your prospect, Brian.
Yeah, and I do often say 2 things in 2 minutes before you do a cold outreach. So it's
Right.
not a bad thing, but if you
Right.
really wanna connect with someone, don't put that time limit on it, right? I think that's what you're
Yeah.
saying, Bob. Just
Yep.
really take a look. And there are so many things we can find out about people right from their LinkedIn profile. We can find out if we've got mutual connections, which we'll talk about in a little bit. We can find out what content they're engaging on. We can find out what influencers they follow. You can look at what their career path has been, where they've worked before. There is so much information that you can find on LinkedIn. Now, I'm going to throw you for a loop for a second because I'm going to say
Ooh.
if you happen to be an Instagram person, you could get some personal information like where they vacation,
Yeah.
how many kids they have, and if they're a golden retriever or a black lab kind of guy, right? Like,
Yep. That's a really good point.
so as much as we teach LinkedIn, there's definitely deeper dive into, other get to know your prospect a little bit better. But when we started in sales, we would walk into a business, right? That we had an appointment, and we'd look on the walls and we'd see what awards they
Mm.
won, what all those things, right? and
Yep.
and
Skill
we
tricks.
would say, hey, we would start our conversation with what we saw on the wall or the trophy in the case. Now we've got so much more information that not only do we know they care about it because they hung it on the wall, but they put it in their LinkedIn profile. So by referring back to some of that information, not only are you building stronger rapport because you took the time to look into it, but you're building a rapport because you can start a conversation around something that matters to them.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. So the second one actually builds on the first one, and that's customizing your connection request. And how are you going to customize your connection request? Through the research that you've done on your prospect. Oh my God, it's so simple to do. It really doesn't take a lot of time to do, especially because it's all going to be there on your screen. It's not like you're leafing through books or whatever, or going to the library to research things. But customizing your connection request is important because you can show that you actually care enough about this person, and you're kind of signaling that hey, let's talk about something that we both mutually like, or something that I noticed about the person who I'm reaching out to that I like, or maybe I want to learn more about, while at the same time hopefully wanting to get a sales conversation started if it makes sense, and only at the right time. So again, slowing down your outreach to speed up your outcome, but at the same time you got to do your outreach at some point. So, I mean, always keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, so I love this, and so I think it's really important. I'm not a big fan of cold calling on LinkedIn,
Yep.
but if you are going to reach out, you need a context.
Yep.
Now, a lot of our colleagues will say, no note, just send a connection request with no note because you'll get a higher chance that they'll accept your connection request. I personally have not experienced that. For me, the best connection requests have been with a note. And that note, and we're going to go into more, so I don't want to jump ahead because I tend to do this a little bit, is jump ahead. It's on our list. But that note is important for a few reasons. Number one, I do believe that if it's the right note and it's a note that doesn't feel like a pitch, you're more likely to get that connection request. Often in a connection request note, I'll state something, the reason that I'm reaching out, and I'll actually say, I invite you to visit my profile. And if you think it makes sense, let's connect. So now I've got them looking at the profile. So if that's positioned well, that's going to help. And now I've got them learning a little bit more about me, and it's less spammy. I'm asking permission in a sense. I'm not pushing it. So that's number one. Number two, in a year from now, when I'm like, oh my gosh, how did I meet Bob Woods? Or why did we connect? Or how did we connect? I have that in a note so I can remember. Number three, and this is really the most important reason from my perspective, is when they accept that connection request, because you put in a note, it comes into the inbox as an unread message. So this is going to spark you to continue that conversation, even if they don't respond more than just the accepted connection request.
Yeah, and to those people who are like, "Oh, you don't need to send a note with it, just reach out and connect, you'll get more," and things like that. Just for me person and I'm like Brynne, I actually don't do that, so I don't know if that's really the case or not. I will just say that I would rather spend the time and connect with fewer people, but people who are interested in what I do or maybe interested in something that I've said or something like that as a result of that connection request, rather than playing. And this is what it is. It's a numbers game when you're just connecting without sending a note, because you might be putting some thought into it, but I guarantee you're going to put more thought into a connection request that has a note than one that doesn't.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You talk about a numbers game. I often say it's like you go to a networking meeting and you pull out your big pile of business cards. And I'm like, "Hi, Bob, I'm Brynne. I'll take your card. Hi, Stan, I'm Brynne. I'll take your card." Right? And I grab all these cards, and then I go home and I put a big rubber band around them and I stick them in the corner of my desk. That's what we're doing when we're mass connecting on LinkedIn. It's just business cards, right? It's
Yep.
not relationships.
Yep.
So when you slow it down, you have a better shot at creating conversation, which leads to rapport and relationships.
Right. Right. Absolutely. 100%. So, numero trace, engage in their content, but do it thoughtfully. So there have been, I don't know how many times when I've said, a comment that just says, "Great post, Stan," doesn't cut it. You want to know why? Because it doesn't cut it. There's
Right.
no thought behind it.
Mhm.
To leave a comment or whatever within their content and to do it thoughtfully, you got to read the post. You have to have some kind of opinion about the post. Hopefully you're agreeing with it. And then the third thing is you have to be able to add some type of value to the original post.
Yes.
So whether it's an article that they link to or maybe an ebook or something like that, there are a couple different ways to do that. You can agree with the statement. You can what we call yes and it from the world of improv. So in other words, agree and then provide your own insight, or just provide an insight that's related to it. But always improve. It's like the old camping maxim: leave things better than when you got there.
Oh, I love
I
that.
like
We
that.
haven't
I
said,
just came up with that. We may
look,
need to do
write that
something like
down.
that.
Write that
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm going to tie that back to the last one is if you have a
Mhm.
connection request, right? So you engage and now you send that connection request and you say, "Hey, Bob, I really enjoyed your article on ABC. I'd love to connect and continue to follow your content." Now we connect, and now I can also in the inbox share that additional piece of content. Say, based on this, I came across a podcast on the same topic based on what you just said, right? And get that into their inbox as well. So all great stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are so many different ways to engage as well. We just listed a couple, but again, just make sure that you're leaving the conversation better than when you found it. I am so going to use that.
I
So
love that. There's an ebook in there.
yeah, yeah, I think there is. I really do. So the next one is, and this is a point that Brynne brought up before, so I'm going to let her run with this: leveraging mutual connections, which is huge, your warm market.
Yes, social proximity is life. Um,
Yes.
so Jeb Blunt says pipe is life. I'm saying social proximity is life. That pipe is life too. So yeah, well, first. But anyway, that said, understand, I just got my tongue tied, right? So understanding your pathways and your people to your prospects, got to write that one down, is absolutely vital as well. We can identify who knows who we want to know and leverage that relationship. But here's the shortcut that we can't do, which is name drop without permission. Hey, Bob, I see you and I are both connected to Stan Robinson. Let's connect. But
Yeah.
Stan doesn't know I just dropped his name. And I don't know how well Bob knows Stan. So we really have to slow down the outreach to speed up the outcome by reaching out. And I'll say, hey, Stan, I notice you're connected to Bob Woods. I'm looking to get in front of him. How well do you know him? And he goes, oh, he's a buddy of mine. We hung out in Nashville together, right?
Yeah.
Whatever, right? And so, great. That's, when I reach out to him, should I tell him you said hello? Sure. So now I reach out and say, hey, Bob, I was chatting with Stan Robinson. He says hello. And all of a sudden, it's like we just met in person, an in-person meeting where Stan said, hey, Bob, come on over and meet Brynne, right? It's really simple to do. Now, if it's a client that I've worked with, I might say, hey, can I mention how we were able to help you? And should I tell him he said hi? So, hey, Bob, Stan Robinson and I were chatting. Your name came up. He says hello. I've been working with him for the last year on X, Y, and Z, and he thought we should connect. It's that simple, but now you're coming in. The slowing down is I reached out to Stan. I didn't just drop his name. And so that is absolutely foundational to your success.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. So the next one is nurture your connections. And I'm going to bring in an outdoor thing that I just thought of. So maybe this is another
Oh,
one to
your
add to our
cooking
pantheon
analogy.
of things. Yeah, exactly. So we've all heard of, and I'm probably going to stumble through this because I literally came up with this like a minute ago.
All right,
Um,
through it. Go ahead.
Nature versus nurture. So when you hear that, generally speaking, nature is just like, you know, it's what is. It is what it is type of thing. Whereas
Organic.
nurturing, I'm sorry?
It's organic. It just
It's
happens.
yeah, it just happens, exactly. Nurturing is anything but that. You are taking time. You may have a plan. You have the means to make something happen, and maybe make something might not be the, best way to put it, maybe to encourage something to happen, something that you want. So
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
loving that.
I yeah.
So, can I play with it?
Yeah, no, 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 absolutely. Like I said, I literally just came up with this.
Okay. So I love the nature is organic. It just happens. There's no real intention.
Yes, intent, yes.
Nurturing is I'm going to take care of those plants on purpose. I'm not going to just let nature take over. I'm going to water it. I'm going to take care of it. And I'm doing it on purpose. And maybe
Yes.
I even have a schedule that I know every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm going to go nurture my
Mhm.
plants or my connections. I'm loving this. We're going to have so much fun with this, Bob.
We
But
are
to that
co-authors, yes.
point, right? To that point, we've got to nurture them in a way that's meaningful to them, right? So if I have a certain weed killer that I use on some plants, I may have other plants that it could kill. So I have to make
Mm.
sure that I'm nurturing each of my plants in the way that is most productive for each of them. Right. So I have some succulents that don't need as much water as some other plants. So you have to know, and this is the slowing down, what each of those connections will value in that nurturing. So for
Wow.
some, right? Are we got something going here, man.
Yeah, we do, and I am glad that you're the gardening expert because about the last 45 seconds, I never would have known a thing about, so keep going.
Well, so I'm also going to throw out this is a total tangent, but this is for the world, one of the best movies ever made is a John Cleese movie called Being There, and he's Chauncey the gardener. That's all I'm going to
Mhm.
say. And I'll say he has totally inspired me to have gardener talks. Anyway, go watch Being There. Okay, moving on.
So what Brynne just did there is something that you should be doing with your customers, and that's providing recommendations.
Oh,
So, ooh, although
it's a
although
different kind
the
of
although the
recommendation in my head, but I like it.
yeah, no, well, actually, we can branch that out into 2 types of recommendations. So, the one that
Great.
we were gonna talk about is actual LinkedIn recommendations, which obviously are very important, and you should be doing that. But you should also be a resource for your customers if they need something else. Hopefully, you'll have someone in your network that you can recommend them to.
Yeah. Well, in that note, I think was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. I got a wonderful package from Christy Jones for her new book, Selling Your Way In. And
Mm,
so I made a post and I'm recommending that to my network, both for supporting her, but also because anyone in sales is going to get value from it. So that's
yep.
a recommendation right there. Okay. Moving on from that, let's talk about LinkedIn recommendations. You want to
Right.
start or should I start?
You can go ahead and take it.
Okay. So there are recommendations two ways. Obviously, we want recommendations, but what we're talking about is recommending others
Mhm.
from a nurturing perspective. But most people are like, well, who am I recommending? My vendors? Sure. If you buy from someone and they're great, absolutely recommend them. But you can recommend your clients too. You can recommend a client because they were great to work with, because there was some real value in that they brought to the table, that they made implementation seamless, that they were great communicators throughout the whole process. And now, couple things. One, you really solidify some credibility and relationship and rapport with them. It makes it really hard for them to switch vendors later on. But also, you have real estate on their profile too. So there's lots of reasons to do it, even beyond the nurturing part. But for today, in what we're talking about, slowing down your outreach, just
Mhm.
take some time, really put together a great recommendation for folks.
Yep. Could not agree more. And then the final one is sharing additional content on a subject that they've already shared about, which is great because in that slow down your outreach, speed up your outcome thing, you are sharing something that they're already interested in. They know that you're interested in it as well. So that deepens the relationship, the slowing down part. And then hopefully, at some point, if you do this a couple times and the other person's like, hey, this person's really jiving with me, I should have a talk with them. You could then have a talk with them and things kind of go from there. And Bryn's going to give some specifics, I think, on how to do that.
Sure, why not? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, one of my favorites. So there's a lot of ways to do this, and I'm just going to give you my number one new, exciting, interesting way to do this. So let's say you come across something that's amazing from Brene Brown. You're like, oh, this is amazing. You can go to LinkedIn search, and this is in the free search, where you click on the search bar and you hit enter, and you click on your first degree connections, and then you click on followers of Brene Brown. And you will get a list of every one of your first degree connections that follows Brene Brown. And now we could say, hey, I noticed that you follow Brene Brown. She's one of my absolute biggest inspirations. I absolutely adore everything she puts out. Recently heard her on a podcast or came across a blog post or whatever that is. And by the way, if you're going to do this at mass, please listen or read whatever it is before you send it. You say, hey, here were a couple of my takeaways. Let me know if you're interested. I'm happy to send you a link. Don't send the link. Just tell them you're happy to send the link. You're asking permission, and your statistics of people that ask for the link and actually click through are much higher. We're probably on 5 years ago. We did a study. We probably should do it again. But we reached out to 100 people with the link, 19 clicked through, and then 100 people with permission. to give them the link. 69 asked for it and 58 clicked through. So obviously that's the slowing down the outreach. Don't just send it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This is the slowdown. This is the example of why we need to slow down our outreach to speed up the outcome. Because if we send the link, 19 will click through. If we ask permission, 58 will click through. So this is a great way to end this segment, really, is what we say is when you slow down the outreach, you increase the outcome. So when you slow it down, you move, in this case, you move from 19 clicks to 58 clicks. So just I think I didn't even realize that we could end it at that point, but that is a perfect full loop on why it's important to slow down your outreach to speed up your outcome. Bob Woods, as always, this is so much fun. I'll let you
This
take
has
us
been so much fun.
land.
Too much fun. And that, folks, was the circle of social selling. So
Circle. I won't sing, I
oh
promise.
no, God, no. Disney will come after us and we will never hear the end of it. So thanks again for joining us for this episode of Making Sales Social Live. If you're with us on live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or X right now, we do this every week. So stick around for our live sessions at those times. Now, if you're listening to us on our podcast, go ahead and hit that subscribe or follow button if you haven't done so already to access all of our previous shows and be alerted to when new ones drop. More info about our podcast is available at socialsaleslink.com/podcast. And I'll say that again slower because we're supposed to be slowing down. socialsaleslink.com/podcast. So when you are out and about this week and every week, be sure to make your sales
social.
Thanks,
Bye, guys.
everybody. Have a great week. Bye-bye. Don't miss an episode. Visit socialsaleslink.com/podcast. Leave a review down below. Tell us what you think, what you learned, and what you want to hear from us next. Register for free resources at linkedinlibrary.com. You can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google Play. Visit our website, socialsaleslink.com, for more information.